Hello everybody, welcome back to our video series on financial statement analysis. I'm Professor Martin, hanging out in the office on a rainy Saturday, making some accounting videos and eating Pop-Tarts along the way. So I am here in Wilmington, Ohio, living the dream. I hope you're having a great day wherever you might be. In our video right now, we're going to be taking a look at accounts receivable ratios. We're going to be including that as part of our overall look at ratio analysis. You may remember from our last video, ratio analysis is simply taking one item on the financial statement and dividing it by another. And you should have gotten the idea already that we're going to be looking at accounts receivable and dividing it by something to come up with some kind of insight as to how a business is doing. And again, as a friendly reminder, calculating ratios, we're learning how to do that, learning how to interpret the results. But we can't just calculate one ratio and be done with it. Oftentimes we have to look at ratios over a period of time to see what trends are there. And we also have to benchmark. We have to look at ratios in the context of how our competitors are doing. And so I've got Pop-Tarts on the mind. I've got Pop-Tarts in my stomach. So we'll use Kellogg's as our example today. Kellogg's is our maker of that fine product right there. And so we are going to look at Kellogg's balance sheet, and you see on the balance sheet right there we have accounts receivable. And so what does that entail? If you think back to your accounting 1101 days, we can dig into the notes of the financial statement. We can see that AR at Kellogg's is principally trade receivables. When Kellogg's sells a crate of Pop-Tarts to Walmart, usually they let Walmart pay on credit. Is an accounts receivable when we sell to a customer and let them pay later on. And you can see they record that AR, that the trade receivable, at the invoiced amount, and that receivable does not bear interest. Pretty standard way of handling an accounts receivable. So thinking out loud about AR, Kellogg's, as you saw, had $1.7 billion in accounts receivable, net of estimated uncollectible amounts. Meaning that Kellogg's has sold product to the tune of $1.7 billion to their customers and said, hey, you can pay us later on, whether it be in 30, 45 days, 15 days, who knows. In any event, they've extended credit. They've let them buy now and pay later. And so what we're worried about or concerned about is we're looking at analyzing the financial statements of Kroger. We want to know, how long does it take Kellogg's, I said Kroger, how long does it take Kellogg's to turn a receivable into $1? How long does it take them to collect that debt on average? Which brings us to receivables analysis. We have two different ratios that we're going to learn to calculate: accounts receivable turnover ratio and accounts receivable turnover in days. Both calculations are going to measure the speed at which a business collects their receivables. The idea being the quicker the better. We want to turn that IOU into $1 into our hand as quickly as possible. And so really these two calculations are two different ways of saying the exact same thing. In fact, you need to learn how to calculate that to be able to calculate that. So AR turnover ratio, how do we calculate it? First of all, we need to know that it measures how many times per year the business turns over or collects their entire AR balance. Real simple calculation, our net sales, which we're going to find on the income statement, and we're going to divide that by the average account receivable. So we need the income statement, and we need net sales right there at the top of our income statement. And you might say, well, wait, so what is the net? I see that a lot when I look at income statements. It'll say net sales. Net what? Net sales is simply all that they sold minus any allowances or returns that came back. And so we report our sales net of returns. It makes sense, right? So we got net sales off the income statement. Then we need average accounts receivable. And you look at that and say, well, wait a second. I've got one number for 2022 and one for 2021. I don't see the average. We're going to have to calculate it. But it's an easy calculation, so don't worry. We got two numbers right there. We can think of 2021 as the beginning AR. We can think of 2022 as the ending. Because, of course, last year's ending, this year's beginning amount. So 2021 is our beginning, 2022 is the ending. We just add them together and divide by 2, making an average, right? So we take the two numbers, we add them together, and then we divide by 2. Average AR, 1.612 billion, or as you see there, 1,612.5. So let's go ahead and do our calculation. Our calculation, net sales divided by average accounts receivable. If you got the numbers down, you want to go ahead and give that a shot. Kellogg's is 9.5 times. That means that Kellogg's turns over or collects their AR balance 9.5 times during the year. Okay? And so you might look at that and say, well, that number doesn't really mean much of anything to me, 9.5 times. I really can't get a handle for how quickly they're collecting their accounts receivable just based on that. Well, I'm right there with you. That's where ratio 2 comes into play. AR turnover measured in days. Now it's going to give us a much better idea of how quickly they're turning those AR accounts. And so it's going to measure how many days on average it takes the business to collect an account receivable. We're going to take 365, divide it by the turnover ratio we just calculated. Whoa, what is 365? The number of days in a year, right? We're measuring the number of days it takes to calculate to collect a receivable. So it makes sense that we would use 365. The number of days in a year divided by the AR turnover ratio we just calculated, which we said was 9.5. So here we go. We're going to take 365 divided by 9.5. Kellogg's AR turnover in days is 38.4, meaning, here's our big payoff here, 38.4 days. It takes Kellogg's on average 38.4 days to be paid on an account receivable. And so interpreting that, 38.4 days or 9.5 times during the year, are those numbers good or bad? Well, I hate to tell you, we don't know right offhand. If you haven't caught on yet, a lot of ratio analysis isn't getting answers. It's really just kind of helping us understand what questions we need to be asking. What are the credit terms at Kellogg's? Net 15, net 30, net 45? If the credit terms are net 15, meaning they expect people to pay in 15 days, then an AR turnover of 38.4 days is not good at all. That means we're taking more than twice, or customers are taking more than twice as long to pay as they are being allowed. What if it's net 45? We're giving people 45 days to pay, and we're collecting in 38. That sounds pretty good. And so we need a little bit more information to determine whether or not Kellogg's is collecting their AR as quickly as maybe they should. We also want to know, what are the other companies in the industry experiencing? Are they kind of seeing an uptick in late payments, or are payments coming in like clockwork on time? So what's the trend? Are collections speeding up or slowing down? If collections are slowing down, the ratio is going from 38 days to 40 to 42 to 48, something like that, then a couple of things might be at play here. One, maybe we're starting to extend credit to people who we should not be extending credit to. Maybe we've gotten too lax and liberal with our credit granting policies. Another reason could be maybe it's the economy. Maybe the economy is starting to go into recession or go into a decline period, and people are having trouble paying their bills. Businesses are no different. And they can end up in the same position as you or I, trying to pay bills and not being able to during a recession. And so we really kind of need more information to be able to understand what's going on with our collections. But this is a great place to start. AR turnover ratio and AR turnover in days. Now, I mentioned we wanted to compare to other companies in the industry. General Mills just happens to be another company in the industry, makers of fine products, Reese Puffs and Cocoa Puffs. And I love Reese Puffs and Cocoa Puffs. I'm kind of at the age right now where if I eat that kind of stuff, I'm going to have a heart attack sooner than later. So I'm kind of right here in the Honey Nut Cheerios camp, heart healthy. But I miss the days of Reese Puffs. What I want you to do right now is try to calculate the AR turnover ratio and the AR turnover in days for General Mills. I've done the hard part. I went and grabbed the balance sheet for you. There's the balance sheet You can see our receivables line right there. Remember, you need to calculate the average. Take a moment, jot your two numbers down right there, and calculate your average accounts receivable. You also need net sales. Right there at the top, you can see net sales for 2023. And so take a moment, grab the data you need, jot it down, and see if you can calculate AR turnover and AR turnover in days. I'll let you pause the video and we'll come back, see what we came up with. Alrighty. So Kellogg's, we already know. I walked through the calculation, 9.5 times AR turnover. They collect their AR 9.5 times during the year on average, and their AR turnover in days, 38.4. It takes them 38.4 days on average to collect an account receivable. So General Mills, we look at their AR turnover ratio. You should have gotten 11.9 times during the year, which means they collect in 30.7 days. So if we look at the two ratios, generally speaking, I've mentioned we want to be able to collect our AR as quickly as possible. So we look at General Mills, that turnover rate is higher. That's good. The higher the turnover ratio, the better. We look at the number of days, the lower the better. And so they're kind of, it's the same number, but because of the way we're stating it, one is good high, one is good low. So the turnover ratio we want to be high, the number of days want to be low. And you can see General Mills is beating Kellogg's on both accounts. If you're wondering where I got the numbers right there, again, net sales divided by average accounts receivable. And then we just take that AR turnover ratio, put it under 365 and do a little math. And so General Mills seems to be doing better. Maybe they have more strict credit terms. Maybe they're a little bit more picky about who they extend credit to. Maybe they have better payment discounts, early payment discounts. Like we saw the net 15. You may remember back from 1101, the old 210 net 15. Maybe General Mills is offering a payment discount, getting people to pay quicker. We don't really know. But these turnover ratios help us ask a bunch of questions, and we can find out answers to maybe. So next time, and we still have one more liquidity ratio to look at. We're going to look at inventory turnover. How quickly does a company sell its inventory? As you can imagine, for a retailer like a Walmart or a Best Buy, that is a big ratio because they want to be able to sell their inventory as quickly as possible. So come back for that. In the meantime, if you have any questions about making your AR turnover calculations, I'd be happy to help you with that. Or maybe you found a financial statement, you did some numbers, and you found some really fascinating thing going on with the company's accounts receivable turnover. Love to hear that story too. Feel free to reach out anytime. As I mentioned, next time we'll be talking about inventory turnover. Hope to see you back here for that video. Until then, take care, everybody.